Welcome to another episode of Digital Natives. My name is Sami Mohamud, your humble host, and today I have with me two wonderful ladies that will be joining me in the discussion of today's topic. So let's get right to it, and they'll be introducing themselves, starting with my right.
My name is Sophia Obileye. I am an HR professional. I work at a training firm. I like to read, write, and anything that has to do with increasing my knowledge. I like that.
Welcome to the show, Sophia. I
Thank
do
you.
hope you share some of that knowledge today.
Will do.
And on my left,
My name is Aisha Bale. I'm a project analyst at Science Technologies, and I love reading and connecting with people.
all right, welcome to the show as well.
Thank
Aisha.
you.
So let's start the show properly. Today's episode will be talking about the issue of fraudsters, or as more commonly known, Yahoo boys. And what I'd really like to get from today's show is to figure out whether this trend is something that is a symptom of societal issues or societal misfunctions, or whether or not this is just an issue of peer pressure where friends are following each other. So, I mean, first of all, would you classify it as a symptom or a cause of an issue?
Okay. For Yahoo, like we say, I would say that it's not a monolith. It's these people are over a wide spectrum. But majorly, I think it's common amongst the people that are, would I say, facing some form of poverty. So what that means is that it's usually as a function of their background and probably desperation and trying to make it. But that being said, that doesn't mean that we don't have people who are from more well-to-do backgrounds. Yeah, they are also involved as well, and of course they do it for different reasons, maybe to keep up appearances or to be able to maintain a lifestyle and all of that. But it's a problem, and there are different ways to look at it. But generally, I would say that we should be able to find solutions to this issue.
Yeah, I do agree with you. Like, I do. I don't want to actually say anybody's names or call anybody out, but I'm very aware of, even up as you go higher on the social ladder, you still see people involved in this kind of act. And for me, I always find it confusing because it's like you're from a well-off background, but
Yeah,
and then if you associate such a person who's from a well-off background and you call them a Yahoo boy, they'll probably like switch and be like, no,
yeah,
because the term itself is very negative, and it's usually for the lower class. But like you said, this is something. All right, thank you very much for that. Aisha, would you see any solutions as to where do we start if we're supposed to start curbing this issue?
I think we really need to start from the government.
Okay.
I feel one of the main reasons why we have Yahoo boys and everything is because lack of engagement. Like when people are done, they go to they go to primary school, they go to secondary school, and then university, and then NYSC, and what next? They don't have work. So people come out from NYSC thinking, oh, maybe because of the experience I have and a PPA, I should be able to get a job within 6 months or something. But they are staying at home for a year, 2 years, they don't have anything. And because like the government does not have a system for like vocational work to do, like you don't necessarily, even if you don't work in a corporate firm, we should have like a system whereby people can do vocational work and things like that. But if that is not even available, people just go to what is next for them, like what they have. So that's why they just go to Yahoo.
So to both of you now, like you've mentioned the government as being one of the steps for trying to stop it. Does that mean you're blaming the government for this trend, or is there something else or someone else that is there to be blamed for it?
Am I blaming the government? I would say yes, because they have the responsibility to take care of their citizens.
Yes.
Like having education and having access to things that can better people's life is actually the government's responsibility.
Okay.
But is it their own responsibility alone? Is there anything that any other person can do? Yes. We can entirely blame it on them. We have like people can start up NGOs and other things, like individual can people that are well to do, like have more privileges, can also like take initiative to do something. But is it the government's fault? Part of it, yeah, is their fault.
Would you also agree with that statement?
Yes, I do, absolutely. I mean, like you said, you have to take care of your citizens, and this is a structural problem. When we look at the root of it, most people turn to Yahoo Yahoo because they can't find jobs. And it's not entirely because they do not want to do something else. So if there are options and there are opportunities, now, you know, she mentioned individuals doing things in their own capacities, but there is a limit to how much, like the scope that they can solve for this issue. We have the figures, we have the percentages of unemployed youth and all of that. How many private bodies or individuals can, cater to those numbers? Very few.
Yeah.
So it is up to the government to say, okay, what are we going to do? We have this problem. People need jobs. And we need to get the older people out of the system because we have people, staying there, like refusing to retire and things like that. So, yes, it's majorly the government, that can find a solution, and also individual citizens such as you and I. We can also find solutions in the sense that we can stop making it trendy because on some level, I think it's it's getting trendy.
Yeah, it seems
To
like
be
they
to
The
be
new cool.
yeah, and then it's like we're not too against it morally. Like when you feel the tone of most Nigerian youth, they don't see it exactly as a problem in the sense that it's just
Yeah.
It's been
hustle.
accepted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when we can say, what, these people are profiting, or they're targeting people like us because they are maybe white guys abroad, doesn't mean that they're not human beings, and we stop making it trendy. We start calling out people that we know, and we start enforcing, we start putting pressure on the government.
All right.
I think that will help.
Thank you very much. We'll be going for a break right now. Please do not change that TV station. This is still Aleeftv, and the show is Digital Natives. Welcome back to the show. It is still Digital Natives. I'm still your host, Sammy, and I still have with me Sophia and Aisha. We were talking earlier on the issue of fraud, or as is more commonly known, Yahoo Yahoo. And so far, my guests have been able to give me one or two suggestions as to solutions to this problem. Anyways, to carry on, I think one thing that I should have probably stated or started with was, when we say Yahoo Yahoo, we just think of boys behind a laptop siphoning funds from an account. But the actual case of fraud goes beyond that. It goes, if we talk about actual fraud, like we hear stories of how the government is looting money every other year, and it's in millions. So what these boys are doing are very tiny compared to what is actually going on a larger scale. Which now brings me to my point of, what can we do in regards to educating people about this criminal behavior and ensuring that they understand that what they're doing? Because if we can educate the people about it, then from the top to the bottom, everybody's aware that they shouldn't be doing this act. You were talking earlier, it was you actually, that was talking earlier about how we're so, especially within the youth, we allow it because we're used to it and we take it as always hustle and that.
Yeah.
But then there needs to be some form of education, right? And at what point do you now implement this education? Do you teach anti-fraud classes in schools or in universities? Like, what would you suggest?
Like ANF 101
Yeah,
or
something like
something.
that, like what actual educational background can be given to actually
Okay.
help curb this solution?
I think it has to start from an attitudinal point of view, in the sense that you have to have some integrity. If you want to hustle, like we say, then do it right.
Yeah.
You know, so if we are going to have classes, it's not just about going to university and say, hello class, welcome to anti-fraud class, what is fraud? You know,
Yeah.
because that's how universities go.
Yeah.
So, you know, we want to be able to say, okay, what does it mean to be an adult? For example, what does it mean to be a responsible, money-making adult? So this way, people aspire to be responsible citizens from year one or something. And then from there, we take it, you know, they also go out, enlighten their classmates, their colleagues, their younger brothers and sisters, wherever it is they find themselves, in churches, in the mosque, they make it their sermons
Yeah.
for that day. Let it be everywhere. Let people talk about it. And while we are doing this on one end, we need to make sure that the police are also doing their part. Because if you are paying off the EFCC or whatever,
whatever security
exactly,
agency.
and you are, because they don't care, as long as you are getting paid, they are not going to be on your case. So if that avenue exists, then whatever talk we are doing might go to waste. So it has to be a total package. Like, if you're going to overhaul this, then everybody, like you said, has to be on board. We need to ensure that there are deterrents, you know, there are consequences. Not that, you know, that, oh, as long as I've blown, I can pay anyone and I'm good, you know, that kind of thing. So that's an angle that I'm looking at it from.
Adding to that,
Yeah.
I feel like this is when activists can come in place, and
Okay.
there should be like a social awareness against it.
Yeah.
Like social media helps these days.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So when
absolutely.
you go on social media and then you're like against the, like, this is Yahoo,
But the
educate
thing is,
people.
there's already people on social media against. But then I think, like you also said, there's that fine balance where we are, like, the line between good and bad for this particular issue is very blurred, especially among us youth. So while there's one side of the argument saying this is bad, you still see other sides where it's celebrated so much that those who are very impressionable would just see that side and not be able to see the two arguments.
Yeah, I feel like the other side, whereby it's being celebrated too much, I feel like we have more people on that side,
Yes.
and they are more active than the people who are
Who are-
against
yeah,
it.
yeah.
So I feel like proactiveness, like, you
Mhm.
have to be more proactive and engage, like, okay, this is not good. Because if you look at it, the people who are actually involved in it, they are the youth, which
Yeah.
are like the leaders of tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if we have like the past generation, they're doing corruptive stuff,
Yeah.
like they're already corrupted. We don't want like these
This
other
next,
people,
yeah.
the next people. Then that's like, where's the future of
So
Nigeria?
then how do we, that's my question, so how do you actually take those next steps to now bring in people who are celebrating on this side to the other side, saying, you know what, we need to stop this behavior?
I like her point. She spoke about youth going to schools and teaching their other youth, like their
Yeah.
fellow
Yeah.
students, about how it's not good to be involved in Yahoo and stuff like that. I feel like religious organizations can also do some things. Like, you can go to school. You can go to schools to have like a talk about it,
Yeah.
just to educate the
Yeah.
students better. NGOs too can do that. So those are the two
Yeah.
ones I can think of, like,
Okay.
religious
Well,
organizations.
this being said, if you don't mind me saying, no matter how good our intentions are, if the system does not support us, then anything can happen. Sometimes it's easy for us to sit on this side and say, oh, be a good boy, you know, don't do bad things. But when poverty hits and
Yeah.
you're in dire situations, like I heard about someone, a friend was telling me about how he this guy is like maybe barely 20 or something, and then his mom has a terminal illness that she was diagnosed with. And when things like this happens to a family, it can be devastating. Maybe his dad is just maybe a cab driver or something of the sort. So the guy he's terrified, he's scared, he's very young, and he's desperate.
Yeah.
So no matter how good his intentions were
Mhm.
as a young guy in school,
Mhm.
excuse me, and he's maybe he was even in some anti-fraud
Class.
club or
There's
whatever.
temptation.
There is that.
Yeah.
So the system really plays a major role.
Yeah.
The
Right.
enlightenment works, code work, yes, all hands on board, but the system
All
as
right.
well.
Thank you very much for that. We'll be going for another break now. Please do stick around. It's still Digital Natives. Welcome back to the show. It's still Digital Natives. I still remain your humble host, Sammy, and I still have my lovely guests with me. We've been discussing about the issue of Yahoo Yahoo and trying to understand if or what solutions there are to be able to curb this trend. And just before the break, a lot of what was being said was just an education that's reintroduced into the society about the negative impacts of such a trend. Now, what I would like to focus on is if both of you can join in at any point. How do we now maintain, how as well as trying to reduce the issue of Yahoo Yahoo, how do we now make sure that wealth is equally shared among society members? Because I feel like that's another factor that prompts a lot of the young ones into just trying to get that quick money. Because they've seen a lot of old people around them with old wealth, as they say, or generational wealth. And for them, it's just about trying to also create a legacy for themselves and all of that. So how do we now create a society where the money that's flowing, everybody can benefit from it rather than having to go through other avenues to get it?
I think Aisha is more suitable to answer this
No, I'm
question.
not.
Yeah.
But I would try.
Go on.
Okay, so I know this has been a long time, so I'll just kind of like paraphrase. I read about like a system whereby the government actually monitors the amount of wealth that is going into people's bank account. So
Okay.
it can get to like it can exceed a limit.
Yeah, okay.
So so that kind of like makes it like everybody in the country, everybody's comfortable, but nobody's like so excessively rich.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, in that sense, in that way, we can regulate like the wealth and things like that.
But then, so this system that you read about, where is it being enacted in? Do you know?
Canada,
In Canada,
yeah,
right? So what does that mean? It gives everybody an equal amount of.
it gives you an equal amount, and it doesn't create the unnecessary desire to be
To get that
excessively
extra.
rich. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
because like this is the
Yeah, yeah.
system, and everybody's really comfortable like that because everybody like in your neighborhood and your friends, so there's no greediness or anything.
So who sets the limit? The government?
The government.
I see. But of course, Canadian government can be trusted. You
You can't trust Nigerian government.
can't. Yeah. Do you have
Well,
any?
I don't think, well, I don't know how that's going to work, but
Mm,
all solutions are welcome.
yeah.
And there's just a lot to be done when it comes to how the government can really curb this menace in sense that um, can people just have jobs? Like, is that so hard? You know, if we're talking about redistribution of wealth,
Mm-hmm.
we need people to have access to equal opportunities.
Yeah.
Because if you
True.
do not have that access, then you're already shortchanged.
Mm-hmm.
You're already on the receiving end, so to
Mhm.
speak. If you cannot go to say everybody, you need education,
Yeah.
but you cannot go to the good schools.
Mm.
Yeah.
Excuse me, you can't go to the good enough schools. You're going to school, but you're still going to those schools that don't really have names. Or
Mhm.
I mean, I'm sure once upon a time public schools used to be the bomb, like they used to
Yeah,
be where
this
you
will.
want to go and
Yeah.
all of
Yeah.
that. But these days when people ask you, which school do you go, which school did you attend, and you already know you didn't go to such a good school, you can't get such a good job, you're already feeling,
Intimidated.
yeah, exactly. So let people be able to have access to good schools.
Mm.
Let them be able to have access to good jobs, not just you have just primary school education or you have one weird funny education to be a cleaner or be a driver. So if you're talking about redistribution of wealth, then we need to start from that. We need to look at those opportunities.
Just to touch upon that, I was just saying how a lot of what both of you have said seems to blame the government and the system that we're in right now. And I feel like if we keep doing that, then the issue of trying to let the citizens themselves take responsibility will never come. Because the government are the people. The government are not created from somewhere
Not
else.
outsiders.
And they're not outsiders. Thank you. They're exactly who you and I. They just have that position at that moment. So if we can now change the system from within, that's ourselves. And actually, you were saying this earlier, actually, if you know someone doing it, if you're ready to code their names out and actually, like, well, I wouldn't say punish them, but make it known to just the public around them that, look, this person is a Yahoo boy, this person is, I feel like...
not really. I didn't say go be a snitch. I didn't say.
Yeah, that's the thing. Thank you. That word snitch, right?
Yes.
Is also another term that makes just the access of crime so available.
Yeah.
Because people do see these criminal activities happening
Yes.
all around them. But
They don't want to be a snitch.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Because that's
know.
another thing. And it's like being a snitch means you're only calling out the truth. You're not necessarily putting someone in trouble who is innocent. If you're snitching on someone, it's because they've done something wrong and you want it to be.
I agree.
So that's just where, like, I would add my own points to what you guys have been saying, though. But I mean, if you still have opposing views,
Yeah, I still feel like to a very large
it's
extent,
still a government
it's still the
issue.
government. And when we say government, we're not just talking about trees. I mean the leaders.
Yeah.
Okay, because like part of it is opportunity, providing opportunity for the youth to do something. And even if I'm so willing to write, if I don't have a pencil, I can't write.
Okay.
So somebody needs to provide a pencil for me to be able to write. And yeah, I can go out to like get a pencil myself, but do I have that ability? Do I have that strength? Most Nigerian youth don't. Like you need to be able to like rely on something to get you somewhere. It's like a gradual step. But if we don't have that opportunity, we don't have that connection, we don't have that privilege, most of the time you can't get there.
But then using that analogy now, for example, if you don't have the pencil, doesn't necessarily mean you have to steal the pencil. You can find another way to still jot down the things you said. If it's by, first of all, telling 10 other people until you get one more person that has a pencil that can now help you write. Because, for example, look at how the Quran was collated. It wasn't until, just a few years after the Prophet's death that they started writing it down. But it's still stuck in people's head because he kept repeating and telling people, and then they carried on the verses. So, just to get back to my point, it's just more or less that don't make an excuse of it's the system's fault and then peer pressure yourself into doing the act, because then you have nobody else to blame but yourself.
Yeah.
If you get caught or if it puts you in trouble or whatever. Wow, it's been a very delightful episode today. I feel like I've gotten a few more information about this topic. By the way, if you're just joining us, this is Digital Natives. We've been speaking about the issue of Yahoo, or the more professional term of fraud among the Nigerian youths. My guests have been Aisha and Sophia. They've been able to give me solutions and just what they suppose can happen for this kind of trend to come to an end or just drastically reduce. And I hope you guys have had fun on the show.
Yeah, sure,
I
definitely.
hope to be seeing you guys another time soon.
Very soon.
And to those at home, do keep it locked on Aleeftvng. This is Digital Natives, and until next time, I remain your host, Sami Mohammed.